So I got this 2009 Polaris Ranger Crew 700 with a throttle body injection on it. They call it the EFI. It's been rolled, didn't start, so forth and so on. It's throwing a code for a throttle position sensor as well as some other things. To test the throttle position sensor on these EFI units, they make specialty tools, but we're going to work around that today, and it's not too expensive. Now, here's the printout specifically for 2009. There's a lot of variations between the years. I'll go over how to address the differences on that here in a second. But this is the shop manual, those important pages printed out. It starts in here. I'm going to focus in on these pages in case you guys have difficulty finding these on your own at home. So you've got something to refer to. Now the problem is, and they talk about it all through here in the shop manual, they want you to order a specialty tool and they give you a part number, and then you also might have to get, you know, an extra harness or something that snowmobile service centers would do. But the issue is that the sensors, and almost all sensors are this way, they don't use a 12-volt signal. They accept a 5-volt signal. Here's my throttle position sensor off the vehicle. Here it is right behind me. Sorry, it's cramped quarters. These are big machines, and it's hard to get room to do this so you guys can see everything real nice. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the 5-volt output that the machine itself generates. But we had to buy a harness here to get between the machine's harness and our throttle position sensor here. Now this is meant to fix harness plugs. You know, you attach this to one side and attach that to the other. We're going to connect this here in the middle on the power, just on the power wire. And then we're going to leave the other two wires open, which will be able to pick up a signal off our throttle position sensor and set the output. Because the issue is they're set from the factory, and when that unit fails, you got to have specialty tools to reset it. That throttle position sensor engages on this little tab here, and then this is what holds it in. Now, you can see that's slotted, and so we're going to move it back and forth until this is outputting the correct signal. Here, I forgot to talk about some certain things before we dive into this. This is the harness. There's the info off the sale that I got off eBay. It ended up being about 12 bucks all in with tax and everything. That was the cheapest I could find. And then this is really important here. This TPS tool, they have a really fantastic throttle position sensor tool that generates its own 5-volt output. Might generate some other voltage outputs for different sensors. I don't know, but they've put a lot of work into it, and they kind of need reimbursed for all the work that they put into it. They have some really fantastic videos online. There's a video for this year range of Polaris EFI 700s. The specific video that they have isn't exactly for this year, though. So you got to be really careful. However, they also, if you go to their help section, they give you common TPS settings. Now, this doesn't show the whole sheet because this is just what I printed out, so you know where to go, tpstool.com. And as you work your way down the list, it'll give you the year and might even give you some wiring information, which may or may not be correct. And then it'll give you the voltage output setting that it's supposed to be at its zero throttle input. Some of these, there's two different settings. You'll turn a screw on the throttle body. Others, if you turn that screw, you've ruined it and you're supposed to buy a new one. So be exceedingly careful for this part if you're working on a Polaris Ranger. Alright, it's probably best to have your battery plugged into a trickle charger to make sure it's got plenty of voltage to throw the 5 volts to the harness. it's kind of cramped back in here, but here's the back side of our harness with that tri-plug. Sorry, I'm working with a zoom on this camera and I've never done that before. So we got our voltimeter in here and we've got this side grounded already. And we just have to start probing these plugs to check which one is the 5-volt output. We're gonna have to throw the key on. So you heard that trickle charger kick on. So that's clearly not it. 9.6 millivolts. That one's clearly not it. There we go, that's our guy. 5.03 volts, which happens to be like an orangish colored wire. There's also a purple and a green on mine. So we know our orange is the 5-volt input. I've already written all that stuff down over here. So on the harness itself, purple's the ground, which I checked. You would ground the black side on your voltimeter and then set it to the continuity, the resistance setting, and check for continuity. I'm hoping most of you guys kind of know this stuff, or you might be in over your head if you don't know to check what your ground is. But anyway, purple on my harness is the ground, and on this particular TPS that we're checking right now, black is the ground. On the harness, it looks kind of orange to me. It might be a red, could be faded or something. And then the blue on the throttle position sensor is the 5-volt input, and then the green on the harness or yellow on the throttle position sensor is the output. So that's the reading that comes back to the computer that's telling it what the position of the throttle is. So that's why it's so important to set it so your mixtures are right and so forth and so on. And if it's getting a bad signal or not getting a signal at all, it's going to cut your machine off, or it's going to be running terribly. So it's time to go ahead and make our harness here now. All right, so now I got to check the harness itself and see what wires match up to what. So I've plugged it into my throttle position sensor, which is off the machine now. Obviously you wouldn't have to take this off the machine, but it is easier to show you off the bench. I tend to think this is bad, so that's why I already pulled it. But anyway, the yellow wire on this is the input. Obviously, if you buy a harness, who knows what the heck the wires are going to say. So I'm going to connect the yellow on each of these. And I'm actually going to connect the ground on each of these. So on this tester harness, the red is the ground, the opposite of what you normally expect. So we're going to connect yellow and red. And then we're going to strip a little bit of this black one on the sensor side, and we'll alligator clip our multimeter to this, and that's how we're going to check our voltage output. It's going to be that simple. All right, now I have what I think is a bad throttle position sensor back installed. I've got the harness in between. So the sensor now is getting power and ground, at least when I turn the key on it will be. And then I've got from my harness here the signal wire that comes back out that's supposed to go to the computer. That's what I'm checking voltage on. Right now it's registering 0.2 millivolts. Obviously you'll see that change to full volts when we're set. Now I don't know if I covered this earlier, but this is from the shop manual, and you can see the part that I've got circled there. We're supposed to, on this specific machine, there's variances between years. Just because you're within a year of this one doesn't mean you've got the right sensor. It's really specific. So on this one, it's 0.660 plus or minus 0.01 volts is what we have to have this setting on at the base. So I'm going to turn the key on. Registering 0.29 volts, and so this screw here is still loose, and we got to turn it till we get 0.66. Might as well try and get it dead on nuts. It can be anywhere from 0.650 to 0.670 according to the shop manual. But if we can get it dead nuts, we might as well get it dead nuts. There we go. So check that sensor. We should probably have it off there and just turn it with a screwdriver, unless you got a guy with you that can. Well, actually, here, I got it set to 0.66. I'm going to step on the throttle now. This is one of those 6-seater machines, so I can't do any of this from back there. And we should see this go up a nice smooth number without jumping around. And it should really hit 5 volts at full throttle or something really close to it. So I'm stepping all the way on it now. Hitting 0.379 anyway. I know the sensor, when it's off of there, I did this off camera, it does reach 5 volts, but maybe that's not really what happens when it's installed on the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down.